Alright, today we are in Jedi Survivor. This is full HD, so this is just 1080p, and this is low settings, so we're not doing any upscaling, and we're not doing any DLSS, and no frame generation. This is on a 5060, so we've got 8 gigs of VRAM on this card. We are allocating right at 6 and using 5.6, and shared VRAM is under control. We're not spilling over on anything. Looks like everything is rocking and rolling just fine though. We're at 100 FPS, and low honestly looks pretty good on this title. I don't have a huge issue with low. Still maintains pretty good textures, and everything still looks like a proper title. It doesn't look like it's giving up a lot to be on low. I'm just going to die real quick. That way I don't have to look at that stupid mountain for like 5 whole seconds. Alright, so now we are at 108 FPS. And let's just jump over here and try out some of the next setting up, which would be medium. Go ahead and accept that. So again, this is just medium, and we are still at 1080p native. We're at 91, 95 FPS, and right around 100, just a little under it actually. And our VRAM allocation is at 7.3. And our VRAM used is at 7, so we are just under that 8 gig threshold right now. So we're just going to see how it holds up and just keep going with the rest of the test here. We're going to get through this crack. It's a loading screen. It's kind of how it, makes it look like an adventure and not a loading screen, which is pretty clever. But anyway, let's just keep going here, and yeah, let's just go into the next level up. We're going to try out the high setting, if I can see it. There we go. And try again. All right, there we go. So we're just going to go to the high setting, the preset rather. All right, so now we are at 90 FPS. We are still maintaining the allocated VRAM of 7.1, 7.2, so we are looking pretty good. I don't really have any issues with VRAM right now. Now we're not doing any sort of ray tracing, and of course upscaling will help us out once that ray tracing does get enabled. All right, so we're at 111, 108 FPS. This is looking pretty good. This is a card that is definitely geared toward 1080p still, but we're just gonna see where it kind of falls apart at. So this is epic settings. Again, no upscaling, no frame generation, nothing like that. And we're at 82, 89 FPS. Now, if we were to kick on some ray tracing, let's see how our VRAM holds up. I'm just kind of interested what native ray tracing would do on this particular title. I mean, for the most part, though, this is extremely playable. I know that people do shy away from the 5060 due to that 8 gigs of VRAM, and I myself have consistently not recommended the 5060 Ti with 8 gigs of VRAM, but the 5060 with 8 gigs of VRAM is a nice, nicely priced entry-level card. It's going to get you the DLSS features that tend to outperform almost every other feature set of its caliber. And you are going to be able to get a nice experience, especially at 1080p, and especially at games with a slight age on them. Like this is like a 2-year-old-ish game. Definitely not old, but not brand new. But all that aside, you don't have to play with the absolute max settings all the time. But in this title, we're just gonna try to see where it falls apart. Like I said. So everything in here is set to epic, and with everything set to epic, we're going to come down here and toggle on ray tracing. Now it's going to think about it for a little bit. All right, so now we have ray tracing on. We're not upscaling, we're not frame generating. Now let's see what it does, how it holds up. All right, so we're definitely spilling over. That VRAM S, the shared VRAM, it is kicking around a little bit, but it does seem to kind of have settled down. It went over a gig, but it's settled back down, and we're still at 72 FPS, and our frame time graph is actually quite nice and quite flat. So really, if I wasn't staring at a screen full of numbers and metrics, I would be like, yeah, this is running just fine. It's 62, 63, 70 FPS at times. So no, it looks pretty good. We are right there at our VRAM though, because it did spill over. That's why we're back down to an allocated VRAM level of 7.4. But everything does seem to be running fine as far as like no major performance issues, no major spikes or stutters or anything like that. Everything feels perfectly nice and smooth. But let's turn on some DLSS and just see how that helps us out. Now this game does have some issues with DLSS. I have had issues with FSR for sure. I haven't personally experienced any issues, but we'll see if it does actually apply it. So it just gives a little synopsis of what it is right here. Yeah, we all know what it is, but I just want to make sure it's not telling me to do anything. Okay, so it went to 76 FPS, 75 FPS, 76. Yeah, so it did help us out a little bit. So it does seem to do something. On my other video with the 9070, it was totally broken. It just did not budge. It didn't do a thing. It just was not working. So with that said, we're at 73 FPS here, and this is just a quality upscale. So let's jump into here with the Epic settings still on, with our ray tracing still on, and let's turn on balanced. This is balanced DLSS 73. So it seems like we are still having some issues with DLSS. The upscaling is just simply being ignored. Unfortunately, it didn't do a whole lot. I was kind of hoping that was just the case, but it honestly seems like it's just not applying the DLSS at all still. And that sucks, because a game like this would definitely benefit a lot from it. So let's just go ahead and go back to native. We're just going to ignore it because it is something that I have personally torn my hair out researching and trying to find, and just like looking for some sort of solution. And I just haven't had anything. I've went into BIOS. I've done all kind of crazy stuff. I probably spent like an hour doing this crazy rabbit hole trying to figure out how to get FSR to load and work. And it seems like that is the exact same case right now with DLSS. It's just totally ignoring it, because this is still in the upper 60s, low 70s. And this is native. I mean, it didn't apply the DLSS. That's what happened. So our only option here is to frame generate, and hopefully that will work. Now, frame generation does require VRAM, so we might actually get crappier performance. So let's just go ahead and turn on the frame generation. Like I was saying earlier, it does require VRAM to work. So it does seem like it applied that, that frame generation. We're at 118 FPS here. Very comfortable experience. Nothing wrong at all with it. So now that we've kind of seen what full HD or 1080p looks like, let's jump over to 1440 and just see where this card can take us at 1440. So I'm just going to come through here. I'm going to modify this and bring this up to the 1440 preset resolution if I can find it. There it is. I got it. All right, so let's go ahead and accept that, turn this on. Okay, so what I'm going to do is definitely not start at Epic settings. We're going to go back down to low, and we're going to turn our ray tracing off and our frame generation off. So now we are kind of back at square one. Make sure that's off. Okay, I don't want to toggle it. Make sure I did everything right. All right, so low, 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 low. All right, no ray tracing, no frame generation. Okay. There we go. Okay, so now at 1440p, low settings, no ray tracing, no frame generation, because we have determined upscaling just doesn't work in this title right now, which sucks. But anyway, we are under our VRAM allocation limit of 8 gigs. We are at 6.8. So 1440 is doable at low settings, but what about medium? All right, so I'm not looking for any miracles here. I'm pretty sure that we're going to start falling apart around high, but let's just check it out. So let's go into medium and let's exit, and this is medium. So we're at 63 FPS. This is again 1440p. This is a card that is not specifically targeting 1440p gamers. This is absolutely a card for HD, just regular 1080p, super popular resolution, still extremely applicable to majority of people who play PC games. And you can get 70 FPS at 1440. So if you are someone who still is on, kind of that fence of wanting to jump up to a 1440p monitor, say you already have this card or whatever, you can comfortably do that with medium settings here. And medium on this game looks really good, especially at native. You know, you don't need to do any upscaling or anything like that. So medium looks exceptionally good. So let's check out high. This would be pretty impressive if we can get high to work, especially without any kind of frame generation. Now you can probably frame generate on this title from about 45 FPS or so. So it looks like high took us to about 67. So the difference between medium and high isn't that much. We're still at 70 FPS here. So let's just you know, kind of look at it through the lens of we're probably going to have to do a little bit of frame generating because we are right at that 60. And when you're at that 60 and you can frame generate, you're good to go. But if you do take it to Epic, you could probably still do some frame gen, just because, you know, you don't absolutely have to have 60 FPS base on a game like this to enjoy it, especially with the investment of a lesser expensive card. You know, this is a card that is pretty easy on the budget. All right, so let's just go to Epic. Again, no ray tracing. I don't even think we're going to be able to mess with ray tracing. I don't want to crash anything, but yeah, so Epic settings are right at 60 FPS. We're ducking below it just a hair, but you know, at 1440p, no major complaints. I mean, this is a very entry-level card, and you're able to get 1440p, Epic settings, 55 FPS, and it looks like your VRAM is actually being managed quite well. You know, I mean, your shared VRAM is a little high. It's a little over, almost 900 megabytes, but that's kind of like just, you know, par for the course, I guess you can say. That's just part of the rules. You know, you are managing that VRAM, but the card itself is doing just fine on this game. I mean, I can't really say that I can complain too much. We went up a little bit on our shared, and that's okay. We are just managing that VRAM, and you know, it does seem to be throwing some of these assets into the system RAM because we're getting a lot of movement in the system RAM, more than typical. And it is quite high. It's at 24 gigs. Now this has 32 gigs on it. I'm running it at 6,000 mega transfers. So I mean, you know, it's handling it okay. It's definitely much slower, of course, than video RAM. But you know, we are creeping up to about a gig of shared VRAM. So that tells me that it's running out of VRAM. You know, a little bit, and it's dumping some of it into system RAM, and then, you know, keeping that VRAM buffer in check so we don't run into any sort of crashes or anything like that. But that, you know, what I really want people to, you know, look at is just how well this is running. You know, I mean, this is a game that is not necessarily known for running super great, and you know, that frame time graph, other than a few little spikes, is doing pretty well. So I'm going to frame generate from here, and then we'll probably call this test a day. You know, I'll throw the ray tracing on just to see how bad it can really get, but let's turn on some frame gen just to get a more realistic example of what you can expect. So this is native 1440p, 86 FPS with, you know, that frame gen turned on, and our you know, our VRAM is mostly mostly doing fine. We have a little bit of shared, but not too bad. It's not like 2, 3, 4 gigabytes like some games. Arc Ascended, but yeah, it's managing it pretty well. This is a good experience. With that frame generation turned on, that frame time graph is much flatter. This is a really smooth experience, and yeah, if you want to save a bunch of cash, you can, you know, put yourself together a small rig like this and use a 5060. And of course, I wish that the DLSS was working. It's unfortunately not working in this title. It's a widespread, very known issue. So if it ever does get to work, I'll of course come back and do a test on it. But let's just see what ray tracing would do. I just want to do this just to, you know, say I clicked all the buttons and hit all the knobs and all that stuff. So, all right. So ray tracing, turning it on. Of course, we're going to leave. Frame generation turned on. So we're at 76 FPS here, though. It's pretty responsive still, and it looks like our VRAM is allocating 7, which means that this is after it's probably dumped some assets. I just love the way this water looks on him with the ray tracing turned on. You can really tell in this area with the ray tracing, it just looks really nice, that reflection on Cal from the blue water. So anyway, with ray tracing, let's see what it would do without the frame generation, just to see what that base would be. And then we'll call it a day, because I just realized I'm very sleepy. It's like almost 2 o'clock in the morning here. I just drove all day and I'm still up testing. So, okay, we're going to, let's leave ray tracing on. What did I say? We're going to turn frame gen off. That's right. Okay, so this would be a very baseline setting. So, like I said, you can upscale from, or not upscale, I'm sorry, frame generate from mid 40s on this game, no problem. This is epic settings with ray tracing turned on a 5060. I mean, you're gonna run out of VRAM, but it's actually managing what little it does have to throw over to that system RAM pretty well. I mean, it's doing fine. A little bit of, I mean, the mouse especially is a little bit laggy with this lower FPS, but if you're on a controller, of course, you'll never even notice it, and that's honestly what this game plays better at, to me, is with a controller. But anyway, I'm gonna wrap it up and go to bed. So if you like this video, throw a like on it. If you're new here, please subscribe. If you are a subscriber and you've come back to watch this, thank you. I really appreciate you sticking around and watching more of my videos. So with that said, thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.